Nene, you.
You too, bitch.
You. I don't need your
You
comments.
want to set it
know
straight?
what? I don't need your Get your finger out of my face.
You better watch
Get your
yourself. You
finger out
better
of my
watch
face.
yourself, trash.
Hey, okay, I just wanted to do a little review on the most recent Frenemies where they discussed, I think, David Dobrik, James Charles, among other things. Those two people I don't really want to discuss much of. One, because like I don't really care for either of them. In relation to the James Charles, like maybe I'm alone in this, but like the whole YouTube doesn't like the word, but GROOMING, I guess, is a thing. And I think that's a very recent thing, and I don't know how I feel about that being some sort of crime. Obviously, you want to like protect children, but I feel like there's something more nefarious at work in that whole discussion. And I also find it really odd that these people, these commentators, all of them, will all like take some sort of personal stance and be like, I don't feel comfortable discussing this subject matter, as if it's some like unspeakable thing of like mentoring a person who's younger than you. They put like some sort of sexual context on it every single time, and I don't know like where that comes from. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm just like, not privy to a whole bunch of information, but it seems to me that that whole GROOMING discussion is very sort of new, and I don't think it's going to lead anywhere, and I don't really feel how comfortable I am giving it any type of validity. And it also just makes me feel weird how these people who will talk about anything, they have like garbage mouths, they just like yada 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 yada. But then this is like the one thing where they like have some sort of moral standard and are like, I'm just not going to discuss it. Like, what is that about? Like, that's so weird to me. But anyways, Ethan, they were discussing fat phobia, I guess, and like being fat, and Ethan was trying to make the argument that like fat people are unhealthy, and Trisha just like immediately would get like emotional about like, but so are many other, so you can be any type of person and still be unhealthy. And Ethan was trying to explain, this is like where I agree with him rarely, that like smoking, all of that, like it's a known thing that it's not a healthy thing, but for some reason the fat thing, because of the whole like everyone's beautiful conversation, like people like somehow are like lulled into a false state of sanity that being obese is somehow like healthy for you. It's very like psyopy. It's very like coming out of like Hollywood, and it's so curious that this one person, this JEW, in the heart of the Hollywood beast, has like a rather grounded view on like how like fat is still not healthy. So that like made me kind of happy, but I don't understand why like Ethan, when he's trying to like compare someone to someone who's like really bad every single time, and he's done this on so many episodes, and I think he does this, maybe it's just like people of like that demographic do this, but they compare them to Hitler like every single time. Like whether they're discussing like David Dobrik or Jason Nash or any of these people, like it's always, or James Charles, like it's always like this person's Hitler, and they stretch it all the way to Hitler, as if like Hitler and the manifestation of Hitler is like the single worst thing that's ever happened in history, and nothing has ever come close or will ever come close to that atrocity. I just like, I don't understand it. I think it again reinforces a really false narrative of World War II and what all happened there, for the creation of of Israel. But I don't really want to discuss that because it gets like really sensitive really freaking quickly. I'm just merely commenting on like, of all the people, of all the sort of like icky people that you could sort of compare one to, every single time it's just like immediately him. And even like Trisha like tries to sort of keep up with the joke, and in a lot of ways you can sort of see it, like, and I think because of her aspirations to be Jewish, she sort of like goes along with it, but it's like a really weird comparison that he always does, and it always like is really cringy to watch, because I feel like the people of his demographic watch that and they're like, oh yeah, and they get all like validated, but to me I'm just like, what are you talking about, you know? And speaking of that demographic, they even discussed how Trisha will never fully be Jewish, and she like didn't understand like why she could never be Jewish, and Ethan was just like, no, it just like won't happen, you know, like because she doesn't understand that it's like a whole like blood type thing, and that, you know, it's obviously like passed down through like the female line and yada yada yada, which is like normal, and I have nothing against that. Like, you know, keep it in the family. I trust me, I understand that, but it's so interesting as someone like Trisha who has like no conceptualization that like there are very old ancient rules that even in contemporary times people still, you know, keep sacrosanct. It's just sort of because everything's out the window and there's no limit or restriction on anything. So the idea that, you know, people like keep a familial bloodline is just like, what do you mean I can't be Jewish? What do you mean I can't be Jewish? You know, I think that was really funny. But the whole episode I honestly kind of thought was boring. Like if they were going to discuss, even like touch on some of these topics, it's like very I don't know, even though I'm just like going after these people, I'm just like, I don't really see any of the big deal that you're discussing. And they're making this like huge, like emotional, like these diatribes on like GROM and like on sexual assault. Like it's just like, it just like felt weird. I don't know. I like Trisha. There's something about her that I find fascinating, and I don't mind the whole frenemies dynamic because it's like something to watch, you know. But I just something feels weird about all of that, and I think I'm just gonna leave it there before my cat freaks the fuck out. So I'll talk to you all later. Bye.
It's a Mr. Theron production.